Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Functional Longevity Podcast, where we give you insight on how to get fit, feel younger, live better. I'm your host, Chris Porter, best-selling author and owner of Y.E.S Fitness. Let me first thank you for taking time from your busy day to listen to what I have to say. And also, before I go any further, let me also thank our sponsor, Y.E.S Fitness. Most people lose the ability to enjoy life as they age. At Y.E.S Fitness, we help people age 40 plus get fit so they can live longer and enjoy those extra years doing the things they love to do. Some quick housekeeping here. If you want to get a timestamp or a transcript of today's broadcast, head on over to yesfitnessct.com. On the top, you see a button for podcasts. Click on that drop down. It'll give you access to any one of our now 373 episodes. You can also get this broadcast wherever podcasts can be found. So boost your longevity with particular supplements. We've talked about this for a little while now. On a Functional Longevity Podcast, I've shared the importance of finding reliable supplements to support healthy aging. After searching for a reputable company I could trust, I finally found Particular, a US-based brand that delivers on quality, science, and integrity. Particular offers a wide range of premium supplements, N&M, resveratrol, berberine, and more, all crafted here in the United States. I'm a big believer in N&M, so that is one that I take for cellular energy and aging support. If you're ready to invest in your health, visit particular.com. That's PARTIQLAR.com, and use the code YESFitness. Use the code YES15 at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Your health deserves the best. Start your journey with Particular today. Unlock the stubborn enigma of metabolic decline and reclaim a vibrant health. Today, we're going to talk about something that is quietly undermining long-term health. That's metabolic dysfunction. This isn't just about blood sugar or just about obesity. It's about a systematic drift in how our body stores and accesses fuel and how this affects every organ system. We'll look into what early warning signs are, how we measure what really matters, and how to intervene through nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, and yes, when needed, pathological tools to reverse the trend. I believe passionately in empowering you to take action before the diagnosis hits, because once you get this diagnosis, it's often the tip of an iceberg of damage. So metabolic dysfunction rarely announces itself. Long before somebody receives a diagnosis like type 2 diabetes, the body may already be straining to store fuel efficiently and access it when needed. What's more, this drift doesn't remain confined to glucose regulation. It ripples outward, altering physiology across the cardiovascular system, the brain, the liver, the kidneys, and more. In other words, by the time you're told you have type 2 diabetes, the metabolic engine has been leaking, misfiring, and running inefficiently for some time. The intervening damage that may occur include increased risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and even dementia. Think of your metabolism not just as calories in, calories out, but as your body's ability to store fuel when you have it after a meal and draw on it efficiently when you need it, during exercise, during fasting, during non-eating states. When that process is impaired, you create a setting for inflammation, oxidative stress, misplaced fat deposits, and end organ damage. From a longevity standpoint, the sooner we identify a drift from metabolic health and intervene, the greater our chances of preserving function and vitality, because the problem is both subtle and cumulative. Many will miss it until it has progressed. So how do we begin to recognize that drift? Well, here are signs to monitor. Elevated fasting insulin or elevated post-meal insulin, even if glucose is still within normal range. Raised triglycerides, low HDL, small, dense LDL particles, raising waist circumference, especially visceral fat accumulation. It's the apple shape. Non-alcoholic fatty liver changes, sometimes now called metabolic dysfunction associated steatotic liver disease, and often preceded overt diabetes. High blood pressure, elevated resting heart rate, signs of insulin resistance, that would be maybe skin tags, sleep disruption, especially obstructive sleep apnea, which both drives and is driven by metabolic dysfunction. Declines in physical performance, the inability to recover as you need to, and persistent low-grade fatigue. If you're seeing a constellation of these, it's time to treat that as an alert, not just a maybe later issue. Now, how do you measure what matters? Glucose alone is insufficient. Glucose is often the last to change. We want earlier, more sensitive markers. Some are better measures than others. So we have fasting insulin and HOMA-IR, insulin resistance estimated. You got triglycerides, HDL ratio, and LDL particle size number if available. Liver fat measurements or imaging, that would be ultrasound, MRI if you're advanced, and HbA1c, and even fasting free fatty acids or ketone response to a fast/exercise is more advanced labs. We have vital signs in body composition, waist circumference, visceral fat percentages, lean mass, aerobic capacity. When you combine these, you begin to build a picture of whether your metabolism is really resilient or whether it's quietly leaning towards dysfunction. So let's talk about some interventions here, the action plans. Here we get empowered. The body is remarkably resilient. If you act early and consistently, you're going to beat it. The following are high level or high leverage interventions, each with solid grounding in current research in clinical psychology and physiology. Nutrition. Number one, prioritize protein to maintain lean mass and non-starchy vegetables. Manage carbohydrate timing and load. Not all carbs are equal, and how we use them matters. Consider periods of mild fasting or time-restricted eating if safe for you to reset metabolic flexibility. Avoid continual grazing or overfeeding. The body needs metabolic rest periods. Emphasize healthy fats. Minimize the ultra-processed foods, sugars, and refined grains, all of which promote insulin resistance and displaced fat. Exercise and physical activity, both resistance training to build and maintain lean mass and aerobic training to boost mitochondrial capacity and insulin resistance sensitivity, matter. High intensity intervals, when appropriate, increase metabolic flexibility and substrate switching capacity. Sedentary behavior is a metabolic penalty. Simply, movement matters. It's simple. You've got to move. Avoid or aim for performance and capacity, not just weight loss. The stronger and fitter you are, the more metabolically resilient you become. Sleep and recovery. Poor sleep undermines insulin sensitivity, raises stress hormones, and alters appetite regulation. Consistent sleep-wake patterns, good sleep hygiene, and maintaining sleep apnea, managing sleep apnea, if present, are non-negotiable metabolic tools. Recovery from training, stress management, and maintaining circadian rhythm that aligns with daylight all matters. Let's take a look at stress management in mind-body. Chronic stress delivers elevated cortisol, which promotes visceral fat, insulin resistance, and fuel imbalance. breath work, mindfulness, purposeful rest, social connection. These are not nice extras. They are metabolic interventions. And we have selective use of pharmacological tools. It's a mouthful today. In some cases, when lifestyle alone isn't sufficient, there's a role for medications or there's just a role for medications that enhances insulin sensitivity or migrate organ specific stress. The key is use them as tools, not as the primary strategy. Think of them as support in the context of foundational lifestyle, never as a substitute. Now, why this multi-pronged approach works, what ties all of the above together is the idea of metabolic flexibility, your body's ability to switch between fuel sources, fat, glucose, ketones, efficiently, to store well when the fuel is plentiful, and to release appropriately when fuel is scarce or demanded. When we lose the flexibility, we enter a state of chronic mismatch, excess fuel supply, impaired usage, and that causes the wreckage, inflammation, misplaced fat stores, organ stress, declined mitochondrial function. Research shows that insulin resistance impairs substrate switching in the heart, increases mitochondrial lipid accumulation, and contributes to cardiovascular disease. Here's the encouraging part. You can reverse the trend with consistent and with the right direction. The sooner you intervene, the more likely you are to preserve functional longevity. So some key principles here for reversal. Focus on improvement, not perfection. Small incremental changes build momentum. Track meaningful metrics. Insulin, triglycerides, HDL, waist circumference, strength, and revisit every 3 to 6 months. Be patient. Metabolic repair takes time, months to years sometimes. Use setbacks as signals, not failures. Adjust, learn, recalibrate. Be your own coach. When you understand the physiology, you can make informed decisions rather than being passive. When you think about it, metabolism is the energy engine for every organ. If that engine is sputtering, then organs from the brain to the kidneys, from the liver to the heart, all feel the ripple effect. That's why metabolic dysfunction doesn't manifest only as blood sugar high. It shows as a cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative, fatty liver, kidney damage, and cancer risk. In other words, the reason we talk about metabolic health in a functional longevity context is because maintaining that engine keeps you alive longer. Yes, but it also keeps you thriving, not just surviving. So our take-home message today, recognize that metabolic drift is real, common, and silent. Don't wait for the diagnosis. Use early markers to assess where you stand. Intervene now with nutrition, movement, sleep, stress management, and view pharmacological tools as backups, not the core. Track your progress. Own your physiology. Remember, this is about vibrant longevity, not just avoiding disease. If there's one message I want you to take away, metabolic health is the foundation. Build a strong metabolic foundation and you give yourself the capacity to thrive decades into the future. Ignore it and you're building your longevity on standing alone. So thank you for tuning into the Functional Longevity Podcast. Next time we'll bring home more information on how to get fit, feel younger, live better. And I'm your host, Chris Border, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening.